Nate Eovaldi, and wow, look at Kikuchi, got 4 years, 56. You can read on down the line. Of course, that was the year of Machado and Harper, most notably on the hitter side. Last offseason, it was Garrett Cole who broke the bank for the record 324. Anthony Rendon defected to Anaheim. Josh Donaldson signed with a 4-year deal in his pocket to go to the Twins. Yasmani Grandal was spoken for early in the offseason, and you can read on down the list. So, by way of comparison, as we say good morning to our friend Jason Stark, where, as a big picture statement, Jason, does this year's free agent class rank?
Man, I wrote a column in The Athletic just today that says this class is underrated. And, you know, it's interesting that we would even think that way, because when you think about last year, you showed the chart. Cole, Strasburg, Rendon, Wheeler all signed in the same week for like $800 million. And you can't match that kind of buzz in a year where we've only had basically one significant free agent signing in Charlie Morton. But I think part of that lack of buzz has to do with the fact no GM meetings, no winter meetings. There's just no real rumor fest event that churns this kind of discussion. And yet, look at the credentials of the top of this class. I think you can make the case this class is as good as the top of last year's class.
Well, not only, I guess, is this year's class not going to match the buzz for reasons you lay out, but I think they might have a hard time matching the dollars for reasons we all know to be true. Hopefully we're wrong about that, and the spending
right.
is carefree and fancy. But let's talk about some of the names on this year's list. Trevor Bauer, I think, is expected to get the biggest deal. Do you agree with that, certainly on the pitcher side?
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt on the pitcher side, and possibly just he'll have the biggest AAV. We don't know about the length of Trevor Bauer's deal, but just look at it this way. We've got a guy hitting free agency with a 1.73 ERA, and that just doesn't happen much. I went and took a look at all qualifying free agent starters ever. These are the only three who reached free agency coming off a season with an ERA under 2. Clemens, Greinke, and now Trevor Bauer. And now, look, I understand that Trevor Bauer did it in a 60-game season, not a 162-game season. So just to kind of cross-reference it, I looked at 60-game stretches of all of these years, ERA under 2, strikeout rate as good as Trevor Bauer's. The only other name that came up for any 60-game stretch in a walk year was Garrett Cole. Pretty good company.
You know, Jason, another one of the big names, I was thinking about my time in the major leagues, and I was lucky enough to throw through some great receivers. I always think of Terry Steinbach, who was a great offensive player with the A's. John Stearns, early in my career, was one of the best base runners in the history of the game as a catcher. Gary Carter, of course, who was the full package. Where do you put JT Realmuto, as you're talking about this class being underrated, historically, as far as some of the best catchers that have ever played?
You know, Ron, I actually think that JT might be unique. We know how good an offensive player he is. It's easy to document what a special defensive catcher he is. But I think there's one thing that really sets him apart, and that is base running as a catcher. You know, Baseball Reference has a tool that allows us to measure base running runs produced by a catcher over the course of his career. So when you take a look at that, it's amazing the only names that you find on the list alongside his. Look at the first two names, Yogi Berra and Carlton Fisk, and then Thurman Munson, and then JT Realmuto. One of the things that really stands out about Berra and Fisk is what? It's longevity. These are two guys who played a combined 44 seasons in the big leagues. And clearly, one of the biggest questions that any catcher faces heading out into the market, as Realmuto will in his age 30 season, is longevity. And if longevity can be a reflection of athleticism, and base running is a sign of that athleticism, I think it says to me that JT has a chance to age and provide that longevity in a way that's different from most catchers.
An elite starter, an elite catcher, and an elite outfielder on this year's free agent list. And I guess two questions as it relates to George Springer here. First of all, where and for how much? But secondly, is this a player where, you know, the incumbent uniform, where the Astros feel like he has more value to them than anybody else, and do they come over the top to keep him in the fold?
Yeah, the sense I get, Matt, is that he is not going to return to Houston. And so that makes him about as intriguing a hitter as there is.